the consumer wants to be a person, even if they not are that person today, but they don't have the knowledge to get there. So they get impressed by the people who teach them, and they get attracted by the people that seemingly already have it and live by it. So we can see that this balance of wanting to be a person but not knowing how to get there and get physically attracted by people, it's where specifically Gen Z are rewriting the rules of like the new status symbols, where sustainability is coming in to be this status symbol that they aspire to know more about and have it and live by it, and they get attracted by people that have it.
Hello and welcome on my podcast, where I meet the great minds who move the industry forward. I am Florian Auger, the founder and design director of OUTERCRAFT. We are a strategic product company helping brands to prepare for the future. I have the chance to work with great people on a daily basis, and I really wanted to share creative thoughts and strategic insights with you. I hope this would help, and I hope you'll enjoy listening. Hello everyone, I'm really happy today to welcome Fredrik Ekström. I'm not sure I say it well, even if we tried just a minute ago, but we met with Fredrik at ISPO last year. Hi Fredrik.
Hi Florian, nice to meet you.
I'm really happy to have you. Last time we met, you shared really great insights, and especially what interested me the most was your insight on consumer profile regarding sustainability. Can you please introduce to you what you do now and how did you get there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so my name is Fredrik Ekström, and I'm from Sweden. I have some 20 plus years experience of working with brands, insights and activations, both from agency side, where I come from branding agencies and PR communication agencies, but also from the brand side, working for like Swedish heritage brand Tretorn, where I was 6 years and as creative director. And this was before I started my own company that I run now, called Above the Clouds. And through Above the Clouds, I work as a freelance branding consultant, senior PR strategist and business advisor. And one of my specialty areas is in sustainability, but sustainability from a consumer perspective. And this approach it's grounded in trend research and analysis. So it allows me to dig with deep understanding on how global value changes and macro trends affect businesses, industries, and consumer behaviors, and how this could be conceptualized into roadmaps and strategic, creative, and operational decisions.
Okay, and how you've always been interested in the strategy regarding sustainability, or you come from a wider background and then you slowly specialized?
I believe I always been interested in it, but from different angles. But I've been working with it in different industries since I would say maybe 2006, 2007 for the food and beverage industry, etc., different parts. But before that, I was actually running dive centers in Malaysia, and it's in this marine protected area where we cut fishing nets from illegal fishermen and stuff. So it's always been close to my heart, but the strategic point has been grown through working with it from different industries.
Okay, cool, really interesting. So all you learn from those different industries are tied together now with the advice you can give to companies.
Something happened. You disappeared at OK.
Okay, anyway. You sent me what you call the NXT Sustainable Consumer Report 2023. which was really amazing to read, has amazing insights, and I think it can really help a lot brands as well as other consultancy as we are here at OUTERCRAFT to lead strategies for the future. In this report, you use a lot of statistics coming from survey you've done. I was kind of surprised of the high level of sustainability awareness of people you asked. I think, and I pretty often heard about lower statistics in France and in the world in general. So I'm really wondering, do you think that Scandinavian countries are in advance regarding sustainability behavior, or do you think they are paving the way for other countries for the future, or it's just like different culture and different mindset?
I think in one way we could say that Scandinavian consumers are paving the way, but I would also say that a lot of statistics that I have read, it is actually pretty similar within more markets around the world. But we know that Nordic or Scandinavian consumers, they are progressive consumers in the forefront, that we could see that what's happening in this kind of areas in Scandinavia, it kind of happens year and a half, 2 years later in other markets. But then it's also sometimes not correct to compare country by country. It's rather that urban hubs go before rural areas, and which means that when the Scandinavian markets are pretty small, it goes faster in the entire market with the statistics. And then you can compare that with like inner city London or Amsterdam or inner parts of Paris, but not compare it to the entire countries. But I would say the Nordic Scandinavian sustainability movement is in the forefront because we come from a progressive outdoor loving kind of people. And
okay. I think it's really a matter of sensitivity. It reminds me of a project we were working on about electric mobility, and the brand was kind of struggling with French market. And once we went deeper on studying like competitors and other actors of the industry, all their shops and they were really all their market was more in the Scandinavian and Germanic countries, and the Latin countries, France and Spain and Italy, were there were not a lot of shops, there were not a lot of consumers, and they were really after like following. And so we decided to put our energy in those markets first, and then move to the other one. Maybe it's like a bigger country with more people, and it's just slower. Maybe it's the things about sensitivity of people to outdoor in general.
It could be, and it's also that we know that Sweden and the Scandinavian markets sometimes by some brands actually work as a testing ground where they can launch it, test it, learn by it, and then bring it out to other markets afterwards, because it is slightly more homogenic group within consumer behavior, and also very high educated group with comfortable living. They can afford to care about the planet, etc. So it's
and do you think they inspire the rest of Europe, or it's just that things naturally follow?
I think in this point of view, parts of it's inspiring, but also this is part of a global driver, a value shift that goes on affecting everyone and everywhere. So it's something that we see in all different kinds of statistics from around the world. It's just happening. It's just the huge transformation that's shifting values around the world.
Like the time has come and it's faster in the Scandinavian countries because of all of what you say.
Yeah, it just spins faster, and but it's the same kind of movement around the world. Yeah.
Okay. There is a key point, I think it's the more important point in your report for me, and you triggered really a big shift that you call the ecosexual. For me, it's really mind-blowing, as for brand as well as for society in general, just understanding that. It can really lead change in behavior in general. Can you tell a bit more about what's happening and how did you notice that?
Yeah. So so the ecosexuals, it comes from that we can see a balance or an imbalance in the consumer groups. Is that 8 out of 10 consumers, and I will dig more into this further on in our discussions, but 8 out of 10 identify themselves as being a person where their values are connected to sustainability. So they identify themselves as a person with a self-image that is connected to sustainability, something that they aspire and want to be. I don't say that they are. It's just that they identify themselves as wanting to be that kind of person. But in the same time, we could see that 8 out of 10 feel that they lack the knowledge how to become that person. And they get impressed by people who teach them something new because they don't have the knowledge to be the person they want to be. And in the same way, we could also see that 8 out of 10 get physically attracted by a person that seemingly live this lifestyle of sustainability, healthy and sustainable lifestyle. Which means that the consumer wants to be a person, even if they not are that person today, but they don't have the knowledge to get there. So they get impressed by the people who teach them, and they get attracted by the people that seemingly already have it and live by it. So we can see that this balance of wanting to be a person but not knowing how to get there and get physically attracted by people, it's where specifically Gen Z are rewriting the rules of like the new status symbols, where sustainability is coming in to be this status symbol that they aspire to know more about and have it and live by it, and they get attracted by people that have it. And this is where we can see that this, what we call the ecosexual, the Tinder effect of sustainability kind of kicks in. And this is something that on one side where you have like the status parts of it that you want to be, and then on the other side where we also know that 9 out of 10 feel that their conscious choices or consumption choices disappear into a black hole. They don't know if it does any good or any bad. And also 6 out of 10 are feeling afraid of friends to judge them if they make the wrong choices, which means that they want to be a person, they don't know how to get there, they feel like their own actions disappear into a black hole, they get impressed by people who teach them how to get there, and they get attracted by the people who already seemingly have it. This kind of paradox of like wanting to be someone but not knowing how to get there, it works in like this status anxiety mix in the consumer. And for brands this could be really a really strong and powerful tool A lot of people, when I say that sustainability has become a status symbol, they're like, oh no, it's going to be like buying the coolest car or flying to the coolest place. But it means that the consumer want to change. The consumer want to live another lifestyle than they're actually living today. So brands have a really strong possibility to position themselves as being that brand friend that kind of teach them how to get there and get attracted because they have transformed their own brand already. So when the consumer look at the brand, they get attracted by the brand because the brand have a sustainable lifestyle. So it works, I believe, in a very strong tool for the future for brands. However, it could also work as a paralyzing effect because if brands continue to communicate in a non-clear way and in a way that is not engaging and fun, the consumer will continuously be distracted and continue to not know if this does any good or bad, and then they would be kind of paralyzed and not doing anything at all. Because if there is a risk that if you change your behavior and there is a risk that you do it in the wrong way and someone will judge you negatively if you do it wrong, it's easier to not do anything at all. So brands that actually do good but communicate bad could actually paralyze the consumer and hinder change. But if brands get into this and understand about the emotional effects in it, they can help the consumer to be more engaged through this ecosexual mindset and actually be part of driving the change, because the consumer are more ready than brands might think.
And do you think that some brands have the same paralyzing effect, that they want to do things, but they don't know how to do it good, and so they get stuck just doing nothing, as people are regarding brands and friends?
Is the question if brands also get paralyzed? Yes. Yeah. Yes, I would say that many brands that I have spoken to is that a common question that comes up is like, we don't know where to start. How much do we need to do? What would be the most important thing? Where is the lowest hanging fruit? Or like, what happens if this get exposed that is not good? So it's definitely a paralyzing effect for the brands, because a lack of knowledge and also a lack of confidence. And brands that communicate bad paralyze the consumer, risk to paralyze the consumer, to hinder change. Even if the brand is doing good, it could be a brand that does tons of good things, but they do a non-clear or a confusing communication, which makes the consumer feel not secure enough in making the choice. Then it's easier for them to not do anything at all. No.
So in a way, it's really brands that are at the forefront of doing things good. They own the responsibility of doing things good, because if they do that, if they unlock themselves, they also unlock like the consumer, because they educate the consumer, and they get exciting for them, and then the consumer can want to be identified with the brand, and so it attracts people who wants to get identified with them. I mean, the relationship you're talking about between people and their friends, and between people and brands, is kind of the same. I see that in the report you use like this process of asking about people and friends and attraction, and then you apply that straight away to the strategy for brands. Is it something you use, like you consider brands and friends relationship being the same?
Definitely, I do. Actually, it's. I mean, brand building. It's kind of like dating, and it's kind of like friendship. So, and consumers, specifically the younger consumers, um, they they view or review or evaluate brands in the same way as they do with friends. And it could be, I think many brands would benefit from thinking like this, because it's that you don't choose your friends. Um, I mean, you kind of like when friendship is so hard to describe, but when you are friend with someone, you just feel it in your heart or in your stomach. You kind of know that you share the same kind of value system, and the friend doesn't lie to you. A friend doesn't try to sell you something that appears to be something, but it's not. It just and it a friend doesn't bully someone that appears to be weaker than themselves on the playground. A friend is someone that support you in troubled times, etc. So looking at brand building as a way of friendship making, I think many brands, it's easier to understand how you should build your relationship with the consumer then, because I mean, you shouldn't do this push commercial just for you as a brand to get filthy rich, because that's not what a friend would do to their friends. So you can't treat your consumers like that. And I believe that more and more consumers, specifically the younger consumer groups, evaluate brands like this. And they feel that if brands are not honest to them and not treat them as friends, why should they invest their money and time with that brand? If someone else does it better, if someone else is a better friend, why should they do it with someone? Then that relationship would go from friendship to strictly transactional, price competition kind of brands. And then brands are entering what I call the no brands land, where you have no loyalty, no engagement, and lower price elasticity, where you're not wanting to pay so much money for it. So
yeah, it's really interesting for me. It's a really modern point of view, a sustainable point of view for a brand, to build a brand and to build a brand strategy. It's really, really interesting. I like this. I mean, if all brands were like considering this point of view to build their identity and their relationship with customer, I think it's gonna be way more sustainable business-wise, and even like environmentally and socially, everything. It's really honest. So, do you think? Excuse me.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
In the best case scenario, what do you think will be the future of the consumer good industry?
I mean, in the consumer goods industry, I think that we will see some kind of we will see big changes in the consumer good in the future. We will have, in the same way as we have different kind of consumer groups or archetypes, profiles, we also have the same with brands, like from sustainability zombies to dedicated pioneers. The brands act in the same way. And brands that, I mean, have like an ostrich approach, like dipping their head in the sand and try to think that this will pass. Of course, they will disappear slowly and steadily. It will be. It's the same that we've seen with the industrial revolution, when internet came, digitalization. Now I have sustainability and more different kind of business models. So I would say that, what we know is that sustainability is one of the global value changes. It's reshaping the world around us, and it's affecting everyone, everywhere in a rapid pace. And it's extremely important for brands in the consumer goods industry to understand this and implement it, implement an approach to it, dare to change. However, sustainability it's not a one solution label. You can't just say we're gonna go from traditional to this and it's gonna be kumbaya. It's it's a wider topic, and brands in the consumer goods industry also needs to be prepared for more organized consumers demanding like hyper transparency, genuine circular business models, not just a fake business model of a recycled fabric somewhere, which is leading into more circular design practices, and also that brands need to stop talking so much about why things are important and instead show what they actually are doing here and now. That's a big shift that we could see in the consumer. So hyper transparency, real circularity, and moving from why to what.
Okay. And for helping those brands understanding the market and finding this good way of communicating, you build a consumer index. So who are those profiles, and how do they behave? You talk quickly about the pioneers to the zombies. So can you give a quick overview of those profiles?
Yeah. So I created the sustainable consumer, or the sustainable readiness index, because when I started talking about the next sustainable consumer, many people or listeners tend to believe that it was like a homogenic group of consumers, that okay, so we have so many people that like sustainability, so many people that doesn't like sustainability, and it's not so easy. So as a way for brands to understand like why and how consumers adapt or don't adapt to sustainable behaviors, I created this through a cluster of questions and found 5 different archetypes, where 3 I labeled green, meaning that they trigger positively on sustainability and in some way identify themselves as being a person where sustainability is part of their identity or their self-image. And with this said, we have 5 groups ranging from sustainability zombies and skeptic spectators. Those are not so interested in sustainability. And then we have eco swingers, anxious activists, and dedicated pioneers. And with this, the dedicated pioneers are the ones in the forefront that are just positive. They have great knowledge. They don't believe in consuming too many products, and they live by it. They really know how it is, and that's also why they are positive, because they know we can change, we can save this. If we just do this and this and that, it will be good. It's just that the knowledge is not out there. So that's the forefront people, the dedicated pioneers, but it's a small group, 8%. The next group is the largest group, that's anxious activists, and they are more afraid and worried about the future. They feel that the world is turning not in a good way. It's just that something is happening. They can't put their finger on it. It's just that they need change. They want to see results. So if the dedicated pioneers are more value driven, the anxious activists are results driven. So they want to say that if I'm buying into your product or your brand, what results do that get? How do that make a positive impact? What is actually happening here and now? So they are more results driven, afraid and worried. That's where we call them the anxious activists. Okay. The next group is 31%, and we call them the eco swingers. They also believe that sustainability is the real deal, that it's important, it's happening, it's something that we need to take with great responsibility. However, they have a lower knowledge about what it actually means, and they have a higher interest of using sustainability to build their own image. So they swinging back and forth. One day they dig into it, and the next day they do traditional shopping with traditional shopping behaviors, kind of. So what I usually, when I view them, I see them like they're not working against each other. It's just that in a different way, together these group are 8 out of 10 consumers. So 8 out of 10 trigger positively to sustainability to some extent in a different way. One group on values, one group on results, the third group on storytelling. And for brands, it could be a possibility to work with all three groups, making like purpose-driven communication, really dedicated for the dedicated pioneers, doing results-driven communication, showing the results and what they're doing for the anxious activists, but also making a cool and fun collab with someone to attract the eco swinger, to get them to know more about what's going on, what's happening. So it's different kind of communication strategies, different kind of branding strategies, but you can, from one brand with an authentic position, still attract all three of them. And that would mean that you could communicate to 8 out of 10 with sustainability.
Okay, and you think you can really communicate with all of those three archetypes without losing one of them?
I believe a lot of brand can. Okay. Not everyone, because first you need to have done your homework as a brand. It's otherwise you will be greenwashing your communication. So the step one is to like walk the walk, what you should do with production, products, transports, etc. But when you have done that, I believe that you as a brand can have this and should have this mix of communication. You can't reach all three with the same messaging, with the same campaign in the same time, but you can reach them with different campaigns, with different messaging throughout the communication kind of calendar. Yeah. So,
do you have kind of examples for each archetype, like a good brand or a good campaign, or someone's doing good in the good way, just to give examples and make things clear about what they like to listen, what they like to learn?
Oh,
maybe it's a tricky question. You can say no.
It's tricky. I will have to get back to you on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for these insights. And I think it's super clear as well on the archetype itself, how they behave. I really encourage people, if they want to learn more, to write to Fredrik and ask for getting this report, because it's dive deeper on details and it makes things super clear and super efficient to implement in your communication strategy straight away. I have another point that I'm really often talking to, engaged brand in sustainability, and people working with those brands can complain about the lack of action from politics. And a couple of weeks ago, I wrote on LinkedIn about like the relationship between politics and brands, because those are two leverage effects to help people move forward in a way. And my point was that in a democratic system, like the politics can force change. As soon as there is something like 50% that agree in a way to what they will do. This is like the really democratic system. And so the late majority and the skeptics are used to have stuff forced, and they are forced to change. But for the other one, like the innovators, early adopters, and early majority, they don't act under the pressure of force, and they want to be inspired. That's where brand comes, because brands communication and reason to exist is to inspire people. And so for me, both are complementary. I mean, brands and leaders do the first part of the job, and as soon as the market is ready and is mature enough to reach this 50%, then the politics can make the change happen for the rest of the population. So what do you think about that?
I believe that brands and politicians, they are both important to make this change happen, but in really different ways, as you also state, and where it could be is that we know that the consumer view brands as friends, and they want to hang out with cool brands that do cool stuff and fun stuff, and that where they get inspired and ecstatic and festive hanging out with them. And brands have a really strong power. Some brands have a really strong power of cultural capital that they can use to engage the consumer, where the consumer want to be amused by them and hang out with them. So if the brands now, when they have this opportunity to position themselves towards being this sustainable friend, they also have a huge responsibility to act like it and use the strength that they have with cultural capital and building up this storytellings and amusements and fun things around it, but use sustainability as a hygiene factor in everything they do. And I think that, however, I also believe that the politicians, they write the actual laws and direct the community and corporates to actually do good. And sometimes we need the politicians to make these laws to force brands and corporations to do better than they do, because you will always have people in corporations that are looking in the rear mirror saying, last year we sold this much of that product and it's not sustainable, so our consumer doesn't want that, so let's do the same next year. And then they have financial targets to reach. That's like the rare view mirror strategy of trying to read the future. Yeah.
Okay.
So brands have a really important part to play of building the cultural capital around the change, and they can be a strong force for change if they do it.
And when do you say that brand needs to do good, communicate good, what you say, how to communicate good regarding the different archetypes? I feel like that brands that communicate only on sustainability and on the things they do good and everything talk to anxious people pretty easily, but it's limiting their development or their voice in a way, because they can be too stoic or not enough exciting. And I feel like there is something with storytelling that should not limit only to sustainability, and sustainability is just something they have to do. They need to reassure people that they are doing good, but they should talk at a different level too. But there is a lot of brands who communicate a lot on sustainability. So how do you see communication, storytelling between sustainability, I mean environmental sustainability, and like fun, exciting amusement storytelling?
Yeah. First of all, I totally agree with what you say. It's that I feel that a lot of brands that communicate around sustainability, they do it with a kind of B2B perspective, business to business perspective. It's kind of like they're communicating with the buyer on a big retail chain. They say no fluorocarbons, no phthalates, no like they're using words that the general consumer doesn't know what it is. They don't want to know what it is. They don't want to think about it. They just want it to be fun and easy. So I think that many brands, they kind of entering into some kind of hero trap where they start preaching so much about sustainability, like why it's important, what they do and stuff like that. And they forget about why the consumer came to them in the first place, why they loved their products, why they got excited about buying it. And they want to have that kind of guilt-free feeling again. So I believe that most brands would benefit from taking a step back, realizing that sustainability is moving into being more of a hygiene factor. It's that you do good, otherwise you shouldn't be here. You have no right to exist. And then you drive excitement around your brand, what you do, activities, communities, collectives, etc. So the consumer can be part of the brand story. And in the brand story, sustainability is a really important topic, but it's not everything. It's not why the brand exists. So it needs to have a more holistic approach to the communication. I believe brands need to bring back the fun to the brand.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that it's been a movement where cool brands were the one talking about sustainability, but now everyone talks about that. So it's not the purpose of communication anymore, but it just needs to be done the right way and mix well with what makes the brand, as you say. What's the reason of the brand to be and to exist, and why people came to this brand first. And so how do you help those brands to communicate good, to build a good strategy, and to move forward in a way, to unlock? How do you unlock the brands to go in the right path?
I mean, usually, the first step is to help brands to understand that it's okay not being perfect. It's okay to, like, when you start, you won't be 100% perfect. You just need to start with something, and then you need to transform it bit by bit, step by step. And then also when you're building it up into communication storytelling, it's important as a first step to get them to understand that you won't solve this with a campaign. You won't solve this with just like one marketing campaign, one communication effort, one stop here and then business as usual. That's not how it works. It's an everyday work of building a great green brand, so to say, and that's carried out by everyone working for the company, from the reception to the highest executive board, to the design team, to the marketing and sales. It's full on. But then when brands understand that they need to like embrace this fully, then we start to like map out who do you communicate with today and who do you want to communicate with tomorrow, to build up a transitional path between the audience, your target, your wishful target audience, and your real target audience that you have today. And then step by step, how you can build that up to be interesting for the people that you want to reach. And that means that you need to have a good understanding of your own consumer and the possible consumer in the market where you are. And look at the different archetypes. How big are they in the market? What do they trigger in the market? What do you have that is real and authentic that triggers for them? And then how do you build that up in a communication hierarchy? And I usually, to simplify it, work in 3 levels, where you have like the qualifiers, which is the basic communication, your right to exist, that you have the real information in the real place, that is correct, you're not breaking any laws, you fix your basic. And then you have your drivers, which is more focusing on features and benefits, the USPs, the traditional kind of everyday kind of communication that you have. And then in the top, you have trigger activations, where you have your bold symbolic actions that stands out, that grips the heart and mind of the consumer or the target audience. So they kind of like get shaken up a little bit and start understanding that something is happening over here. And they start getting interested, and they start engage with your company and your brand and your product. And then they see your driver communication, they look a little bit more, they see your qualifier communication, that everything is correct and it's in the right place, and they get a good feeling for it. So it's a mix of like understanding who you talk to today, who you want to speak with tomorrow, and how you attract them, and then tear it up in qualifier, drivers, and triggers. Yeah.
Okay. I like the fact that you say that it's okay not to be perfect. And I read a book by Rick Rubin pretty recently that talk about the same, like being perfect is boring in a way. I mean, machines are perfect and computers are perfect. It works in a perfect way. But human is not perfect, and you have to accept this contradiction. And as you said, like friends and brands relationships kind of the same. Friends are never perfect. So brands, we don't expect for brands to be perfect.
Yeah,
and it makes more room to start in a way.
Yeah. And no one can be perfect. It's brands, need to understand that it's you will never be perfect. and it's also that you will never reach an end goal. So that's like 2 things that brands need to understand, that you can never be perfect, and you will definitely not be it from the beginning, and you will never reach your end goal, because when you reach the goals that you have set up, the time around will have so much would have changed. So the goals will be outdated, and you will need new revised goals. So this ongoing journey without an end goal, that makes it a little bit more fun. And back to the friendship part, it's that friends go in and out. It's that you start become friend with someone, then someone goes off to high school somewhere, someone goes to university somewhere, they gather knowledge, they change as persons, but the friendship, if it's true, it stays there in some way. And that is mainly because you share the same kind of value system that you can't put your finger on. And if you can work with that over time, it will be a fun journey, even if it doesn't have an end goal.
Sure. It's like in life in general. I like
Yeah.
the similarity between like people and brands. It's super interesting. I mean, all what you say for brands can apply for people, for you or for anyone. I don't want to abuse your time. I have one last question from a friend of mine, which is a sustainable development brand leader at Decathlon. And I think it's interesting having a question from someone in a brand. And Tristan asked how creative companies can use innovation to lead environmental transition.
Could you say it again?
How can creative companies use innovation to lead environmental transition, like in an efficient way?
So, I mean, I believe that creative companies are a really important force to drive change, mainly because they come from a background of creativity. That's where they're born, from creativity and with an entrepreneurial mindset. And one of the main topics with creative companies is to solve problems for clients, solve problems for campaigns, solve problems in consumer behavior, understand that. So I believe that creative companies will play a major role in how this could be, because just how they are. But then I also believe that it needs to be a collaboration between like big companies and creative forces. That could be creative companies, creative agencies, creative people that ignite ideas or drive ideas in big companies, or turning into be their own entrepreneurs. And in Sweden, we could see many examples of that, with like creative people that all of a sudden they're so into this, so they get this idea and they start their own company, and they start like electric boating companies or electric motorcycle companies, or climate neutral outdoor brand, etc. Because they just get the idea, and they know how it works, with how to transform creativity into be exciting for the consumer. So I think that creative companies will play a major role, and I also strongly believe that this change that is happening in the world, it will be led by entrepreneurs. I believe. I believe that would be the strongest point, because politicians, they will get elected, pay back to everyone that elected them, have a small window of actually governing and making change, and then they will try to get re-elected again. So politicians won't make this happen. They will try to keep up the pace. Big brands that been existing for a long time, they have so much heritage in supply chains, fiscal years, investors, stakeholders. So for them it will be hard to change. It will take longer time. And during that transitional time of big corporations and politicians, you will have loads of small new entrepreneurs coming from creative companies with ideas, bringing it up, starting it, trying it, going in bankruptcy, but once in a while it will be new unicorns coming up. And that could be that they work either on their own company or working as intrapreneurs for the bigger companies that needs change, just feeding in information, inspiration, driving it, leading the processes, etc. So I believe it will be working as on its own, but also the collaboration between this creative force and big companies. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's very interesting point of view. Actually, this question could have been to me, because as a creative agency owner, I really think about our position with those big groups and how we can really help. And actually, we met people and we work with people, really creative people that are in-house designers in big groups. People like Tristan that is asking the question, and a lot of his colleagues, a lot of people in other brands. And as a creative agency, we don't have the burden of all the daily tasks to achieve and all the urgent stuff. When we work for a brand, the brand came to us because it's easier sometimes to outsource a research, to have an outside point of view of people who don't share the daily job and the daily tasks to deliver. And so we come with a fresh mindset. We can see the strength that you can feel like something common when you're working in the company every day. And we can see the strength, and we learn from all the other experiences that we have with other companies, with other market we studies, with other field, everything. And it really feels creativity needs to be fed. And so we constantly feed ourselves with what other creative people are doing. And it's easier for us to come with a fresh mindset, without emotional attachment with the company, the historic and everything. And we can be faster and more innovative, and we can collaborate really with people. The people who are working with are the experts of their field. I mean, when we arrive we work with a company, we will not be better in their field than them, it's sure. So it's really a collaboration. Those persons are really masters, and we are the freshness, the fresh model of view. And if we work together, we can really achieve like huge things and really forward thinking and really new, and give more energy to the project in general. So I think it's more or less the same as what you've said with entrepreneurs and this creative force and everything. But it's really teaming with the power of a big company. If a big company changes something really small that can look really insignificant, it can make a big impact, way bigger than a small company doing something big. So in a way, it's this collaboration that really makes sense. And those small companies can make the proof. As you said, some go to bankruptcy, some not. And then it starts being interesting for a bigger group, sometimes to buy them or to collaborate with them, because they made the proof of what they work for, what they believe in. So it's fully agree.
Yeah, totally agree. And it's. I mean, I've been on both sides, so I know how it is when you work and you have your day-to-day job. You have all your chores that you need to do when you're in the big corporation, and it's harder sometimes to be innovative and thinking like outside the box, kind of to solve the problems. And that's also where creative companies can they can be used in a good way, both to challenge the old structures within a company, because there's no emotional attachments between the company that comes in and say you should do this and you should do that, and it could give the entire organization so much energy just to hear a fresh point of view, just thinking in a different way, just saying like, why haven't you thought about it in this way? And that could be like the small tipping point just to for something really big to happen. And then I totally agree with it.
For a while. Yeah.
Well,
So
no, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Then it drives energy for a while in the company, even if the agency is not here anymore.
Yes, exactly. It gives them so much, and and sometimes it's hard to put the finger on like what did a creative company actually do, but it just gives that extra push, that extra ideaness or height of innovation that could change. And but then back to what you said with about this with the collaboration part, is that we need the big companies in this, because even if you are, and I know that by my own experience, is that when I worked and made like a jacket of discarded fishing nets, and it got really good attention and everybody was just loving it. It's like, oh, this is fishing nets, oh, it's ghost net jackets, it's so good. And we sold maybe 1,000 jackets, but then when you have like a big corporate mobile tech giant changing just a small part in their cell phone with the same kind of material from the same kind of fishing nets, it's just huge in the amount of fishing nets that they collect and use compared to the jacket. But it doesn't get the same attention because it's just something that should be done. So the big companies is that they're big enough to make real change, and they could learn from what all these small cool brands, the entrepreneurs, creative agencies, creative campaigns, what they're doing, and then just pick the raisins out of the cake and start using it in their own corporation and make actual change that small companies cannot. And that could be also compared to like when we talk about the consumer groups, that maybe like this collab with jacket that is made out of ghost net talks to some kind of consumer, and then when you make it into another more mainstream product, it actually might go outside of the three green groups and go to the skeptic spectators, because they won't notice that they're buying into something that is actually good. They're just buying in on price and convenience. So it's it needs to be small and cool and then driven up to scale, and that maybe is not within the same company, but it's for the same planet.
It's a good word for ending this session.
Good.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I don't want to abuse your time again. It's been really interesting. I think we've talked about a lot of great insight. Really invite you to contact Fredrik, to send an email. I will share his contact on the link. Again, the agency is named Above the Cloud in
Yes.
Sweden. And so, a last word for the consumer good industry?
If I have any last words, it's no. I think that I go back to what we spoke about before, that remember that no one is perfect from the beginning, and that is okay. The important thing is to start doing something.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Talk
Thank you.
soon. Thanks again.
Yeah.